Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today I'm here with part 2 of my Batman v Superman review, and I'm here to talk about the Ultimate Edition of the movie. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. Now before I dive into my review of the film itself, I want to talk about how I actually got Batman v Superman the Ultimate Edition DVD in the first place. After all, if I didn't like the theatrical version of Batman v Superman, why on earth would I want an extended cut of it? That just doesn't make sense now, does it? Well, I can't remember how it happened, whether it was through word of mouth or an internet search, but apparently, I kept seeing reviews/comments from people saying the Ultimate Edition was better than the theatrical cut. Indeed, if you go on websites like Rotten Tomatoes, you'll find a bunch of positive reviews, but they're for the Ultimate Edition, not the theatrical cut. When I saw this kind of positive feedback, I got curious, and so I wondered, well, is the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman really better? And so I would put the movie on my Christmas lists or my birthday lists, depending on what time of year it was. The only problem is no one in my family would buy it. Not even my siblings, who are like big superhero fans. Well, mostly into like Marvel stuff. That all changed one Christmas during the year 2021 when my brother finally bought it for me on Blu-ray. So thank you, my brother. I wasn't able to watch the movie though until months later because I had a bunch of work and stuff. Eventually, I found the opportunity to just sit down with my sister and watch Batman v Superman the Ultimate Edition. Is it good? Is it better than the theatrical cut? In short, yes. If you want to know why, keep watching. I think you'll enjoy what I have to say. Now, when I say the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman, you're probably wondering, wait, what are you talking about? What do you mean by Ultimate Edition? Well, this is essentially a director's cut of Batman v Superman in which 30 minutes are added to what was shown in theaters. Now, when I say there's 30 extra minutes, you're probably thinking, oh, it's just one long slab of 30 minutes that they stuck somewhere into the film. In reality, those 30 minutes are spread out across the whole movie, whether they are actual pieces of additional footage not shown in the theatrical cut, such as scenes of Clark Kent visiting Gotham City, or just extensions of scenes that were in the theatrical cut, like the scene at the Capitol building. So what this does for the movie is it allows the pacing to be much smoother, so there's no abrupt cuts that feel super out of place. And this movie also has an excellent flow to it because of those extra 30 minutes. And what you get is an entertaining and pretty enjoyable film. Since I'm talking about all the good stuff with the Ultimate Edition, I'll keep going with that. Every character in this movie is portrayed better, including the two main title characters, Batman and Superman. This movie actually brings to light each of the heroes' views of each other, which influences them to fight. For Batman, when it comes to his views on Superman, he thinks good people do not stay good, and that they will eventually become corrupt. For Superman, he believes the definition of good and evil should not be decided on by one person. Even though both of their views are only mentioned briefly during the movie, it shows the audience why Superman and Batman act the way that they do in the movie, why Batman goes on his shooting rampage, why Superman is disobeying Perry White's assignments at the Daily Planet just to do research on Batman instead. Scenes like those that were once just kind of insignificant or you just kind of pass over it in the theatrical cut, they're now more understandable due to the clarity of Batman and Superman's motives or what they choose to do throughout the film. Two other characters that get a chance to shine are Lois Lane and Lex Luthor. Lois Lane's investigation into the model of the bullet that was shot into her notebook while she was in the desert conducting an interview with a dictator, it felt kind of unnecessary and wedged into the movie for no reason in the theatrical version of Batman v Superman. But in the Ultimate Edition, it feels much more interesting due to the fact that it sheds light onto who Lex Luthor is as a character. It also does not feel forced, unlike in the theatrical cut, and it does not try to justify Lois Lane's existence in the movie. The investigation itself is very interesting, and to be honest, I actually cared about what Lois Lane was doing. The best part is that it goes from researching a bullet into uncovering Luthor's evil schemes that he develops to try and destroy Superman. The more Lois Lane uncovers about Lex Luthor, the more inquisitive she becomes, and that part of her investigations was very, very interesting. Speaking of which, Lex Luthor here in the Ultimate Edition is shown to be far more villainous than he was in the theatrical cut. Gone is the crazed lunatic that was portrayed in the theatrical cut that kind of portrayed the Joker from The Dark Knight, and instead we get a cunning, calculated Luthor who is obsessed with trying to destroy Superman throughout the entire movie. To do this, he uses incidents and certain events that he himself sets up, like the Capitol bombing, to try and either A, baiting Superman into getting involved in something, or B, trying to frame Superman as a threat to humanity. Every time he fails, Luthor gradually starts to lose his mind, which is why he acts so tense and crazy later on in the movie. Now you watch these two characters, Lois Lane and Lex Luthor, going through their arcs, even if they don't necessarily grow as characters, and you kind of find that they kind of complement one another. Like, one cannot exist without the other. It was kind of interesting watching both of their arcs progress and seeing how their arcs kind of work in tandem. All of these character changes allow the audience to understand the character's reasoning and motives for scenes like Batman shooting up the guys in the wharf or Superman not writing about sport. All these character changes also cause the action to be far more entertaining. Even if you don't like it or it just crawls under your skin, it's still just kind of fun to watch. I still enjoyed it. Cinematography is still good here. The score is also still good here. Yeah, I've got nothing to say on those. That being said, though, the movie still contains issues present in the theatrical cut. Let me start here by saying I was wrong about Wonder Woman when I said she didn't do anything in the theatrical cut. I actually forgot about a scene where she stole a device Batman is using to steal files from one of Luthor's archives, which she takes while Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent are both at a party Lex Luthor's holding at his headquarters. That is featured in the theatrical cut, and I'm surprised I didn't notice it when I was watching that scene, because I picked up on that scene in the Ultimate Edition. What's crazy, though, is that she returns it for some reason later in the film, and you kind of just don't know why. Besides that, she's still just there to tease her movie. Other negatives, yes, Batman still kills people. That's probably not going to ever get fixed. I would also like to add that Superman kind of acts like a really mopey character. I should have addressed this in part 1 as well. But when Superman is just standing around talking to people like Lois Lane, he starts talking in this really low voice as if he's angry or something, but his face has barely any emotion on it. And he just has this low tone, dark, like, I'm powerful here, I'm taking over, you can't do anything to stop me, you've lost, Lex. You lost. I don't know if this is on Henry Cavill and his acting performance or the writing for Superman, but he just comes across as someone who's trying to say something unnecessarily moving or just trying too hard to sound intimidating. Now, in spite of her investigation being far more interesting, as I mentioned before, Lois Lane is still kind of an object for Superman. She's still that damsel in distress that he has to go and rescue, but she's still likable, as I've already mentioned. The Justice League teaser is still on the nose. We still have that stupid email scene. That probably shouldn't get fixed either. But I'd also mention that the Ultimate Edition has more teasers in it, because not only do we get a Justice League teaser and a Wonder Woman teaser, we also get a bonus Suicide Squad teaser towards the end, where Batman confronts Lex Luthor in his prison cell. So there's that. In addition, despite some added footage being useful and smoothing out the pace and adding more clarity to character motives, there are some additional scenes that don't feel like they should be in there, and they just pad out the runtime so that the movie just feels a little too long. For example, during the desert scene that's shown in the beginning of the movie, there are scenes of CIA agents riding camels through the desert, and they eventually arrive at the place where Lois Lane is trying to conduct her interview and then eventually gets captured. However, these agents don't really do anything. It's implied that they make arrests and they rescue some women who are in danger, but we don't actually see it happen. There's also like a missile strike, and that part of the scene is only done so that Superman can come in like some epic boom bow reveal / appearance. Honestly, these CIA agents could have been cut from the movie entirely, and I don't think anything would change about it. Also, other scenes like this that feel like they're just way too long, or they feel like they should have just been cut out of the movie, like extended scenes where Lois Lane is in the final fight and she's trying to get the kryptonite spear that she threw in a pool in like some ruined building. Now, there's one scene in Batman v Superman that I forgot to mention in my first video, and it's really an important scene. It's driven a lot of DC fans nuts because it is kind of crazy. And that scene that I'm talking about is the infamous Martha scene. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. It's really dumb. You can tell the scene is supposed to be where Batman and Superman unite, but the writers have no idea, have no clue on what point Batman and Superman should unite and why they should actually work together. It's a good idea for the story, I will admit, But recognizing that their mothers share the same name is not a good reason for anybody to just decide to put their differences aside and work together as a team, especially Batman and Superman. In my opinion, what should have happened was that Batman and Superman recognize that even though they see good and evil in a different light, they can still work together even though their worldviews are different. And so they team up to stop Lex Luthor and his creation, Doomsday. And maybe there's like a bonus scene in there, maybe after they clean up their act and shake hands and make peace, Superman's like, I've got to go rescue my mother. And then Batman asks him, your mother? And then Superman just replies with, yes, my mother. Who is she? Batman may ask. And then Superman would reply like, Martha Kent. And then Batman would stop and like remember his mother's name was Martha, and he'd be like, oh, well, let me go get her. And then maybe they had that scene where Batman and Superman debate as to who go gets Martha Kent until finally they just decide, okay, Batman goes to get Martha Kent and then Superman goes to get Lex Luthor. I think there would have been a much cleaner transition to the final battle with the Doomsday. But yeah, it is what it is now. I mean, I still think it's really stupid. Having your mother have the same name as your mother, really? I think it's just stupid that they would unite just because their moms are both named Martha. Doomsday is still a terrible choice for a monster villain, but at least he's more intimidating here due to some extra footage of him taking out some helicopters, so at least he's scary in those scenes. Good on that, I guess. Now, as I said in my first review on Batman v Superman, I want to discuss some other villains that I think could replace Doomsday as the big monster villain. However, I can only think of two possibilities. The first one being Bizarro. Now, if you know about this character, and frankly I think you should, he is the stark opposite of Superman and anything logical in particular in terms of his character. He likes messy stuff, he's this really gray skin, Superman-like clone, his S is usually backwards on his chest, he talks funny. But there's a 1986 comic of Superman that I read recently that was written by a man named John Burns, where he portrays Superman as a failed experiment by Lex Luthor to create his own Superman. This Bizarro character then goes on to fight Superman and nearly beats the real Superman to a pulp. But eventually this Bizarro gets defeated. Now, why would I bring him up, and why would I want him in Batman v Superman instead of Doomsday? Well, first of all, his origin is kind of similar to Doomsday's in the movie. He's, number one, the result of a Lex Luthor experiment. He gets a strong advantage over Superman. He's a tool used by Luthor to get rid of Superman. I think this villain could have been much better than what we got in Batman v Superman, the movie. Now, my second choice is actually something that I actually considered cutting out, but I think he would still work. And that villain is Mongol. He's the leader of Warworld and a very conquest-hungry villain who, in design, kind of resembles the DC villain Darkseid. And that's why I picked him, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Now, there's a comic I read recently featuring both Batman and Superman, where in that comic there was a character named the Toymaster who made a video game where the goal was to kill Batman. Toymaster forces Batman and Superman to fight in his little game, but then Mongol arrives and takes advantage of Toymaster's game to kill Batman and try to control Earth as well, so then he could attack Superman. See how similar this is to what happens in Batman v Superman? Now, I'm not saying that Batman v Superman should have followed this plot structure beat for beat, but having Mongol as a surprise villain works well in the comic, and I think it would also have been better to have included him as like the ferocious monster villain that appears at the end, because Zack Snyder, you can tell throughout this movie, is trying to set up for a Justice League, and since Darkseid is actually in Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I think Darkseid was originally part of his plans for that movie before, the whole debacle happened with this movie. I won't get into it. There's other videos on the platform that can explain it. You can look there. But Mongol, just in terms of character and design, he's very similar to Darkseid in that both are conquest-hungry villains, and they're ferocious, and they really can give Superman a run for his money. However, given the choice between Mongol and Bizarro, I think I would have preferred Bizarro as BVS's big ultimate baddie. Now, what would this mean for Superman if Bizarro or Mongol was in the movie instead of Doomsday? With either pick, he would have to be knocked out, stone cold, presumed dead, until Zack Snyder's Justice League revives him, Or he would have been framed for supposedly killing somebody and then locked away in a kryptonite cage that Lex Luthor designed for him. Oh, and Luthor would still go to prison for using scenarios like wars and a monster to try and kill Superman. Now, besides all of these issues that I've mentioned, and yes, took a little longer than I expected, I think Batman v Superman: The Ultimate Edition is far better than the theatrical cut. Albeit only slightly better, as it still contains problems that were present in the theatrical cut. I didn't expect any huge changes to this movie in terms of story or plot beats that would have made this film exactly what I wanted it to be. I still wish there were more movies that could have led up to this, and really, I think Batman v Superman in concept needed more movies to justify its existence. In the end, though, Batman v Superman: The Ultimate Edition is just part of a man's vision, Zack Snyder's vision, to create a DC universe with the Justice League in it. And you can tell that he wants to make a Justice League movie as soon as possible. Honestly, I don't want to pick on Zack Snyder for his craft. I honestly respect this movie. As I mentioned before, I do like it, and I still enjoyed it. And I would definitely recommend it to anyone who is interested in digging into Batman v Superman as a movie or just the DCEU movies as a whole. If I had to give a score to the Ultimate Edition, I'd probably say like 6.5 or 7 out of 10, because it's definitely worth watching again, and it's just a fun movie overall. Anyway, that's all I've got on the Ultimate Edition. I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments below about Batman v Superman: The Ultimate Edition as a movie. With that being said, this should conclude my DCEU movie lineup, even though there's always more projects in the future. But speaking of in terms of 2010's DCEU movies, I think I pretty much checked everything off on the movie list. That's all I've got. Let me know what you think. I'll see you all later. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment down below what you think of Batman v Superman. I'll see you all in my next video, folks. Stay tuned, everyone.